Craig Button, TSN hockey insider and analyst. He will be brought to you by Pro-Am Sports, your locally owned sports memorabilia and apparel specialists. You can find them just north of the Yellowhead, St. Albert Trail, 128th Ave, or check them out easy as you will online, proamsports.ca. Great website up there. Great deals, and I'm sure they'll have some things for you in the playoffs like you, Joaquin. They are sports nerds and AM nasties too. So check them out today, Pro-Am Sports.
Fantastic.
And I do believe Craig's getting ready here. He's good to go. Wow, let's bring him in. He'll be good. He's a pro. He'll be Craig, how you doing today? Happy Friday morning. Thanks for flexing in and out with MJ and joining us on a Friday, man.
No problem. It's important to be able to flex through the lineup. I like flex players that can do that in the NHL, so I'm happy to join the club. And Joaquin, I think that my wife works for the Canadian Olympic Committee. I'm going to suggest a new sport. You hike, and then you got to hike up the mountain, and at the top of the mountain, you play pickleball.
Oh, gosh.
It could be an Olympic sport.
Yeah, that's, I'd need a little bit of O2 on the back, I think.
A couple of tanks, eh?
At least a couple.
Craig, it's all over. The regular season is done. Finally, thank God, in these parts. We were kind of waiting and playing. Again, those last two games, Coyotes and Avalanche, a little unfair for the Oilers. You're kind of party crashers in both. The Arizona Coyotes, of course, being acquired by Ryan Smith, going to Utah. Emotional night down there at Mullet. And then you wrap things up against an Avalanche team where you're sitting a lot of your stars, obviously, but the Avalanche, a little something to prove for their home fans before they begin the Stanley Cup playoffs, odd as it sounds, on the road in Winnipeg. But just your general thoughts last night. Of course, Oilers drawing the Kings now. Kings with that overtime win and the Vegas loss to the Ducks. But what do you like about this matchup? And I guess, obviously, Vegas now drawing Dallas in the Western Conference kind of as a whole.
Okay, well, let's start with Edmonton. I mean, you're right, the last two games. I mean, I think the game in Arizona, you go in there, you're just trying to – it felt like an exhibition game. It felt like a preseason game for the Edmonton Oilers. Arizona, they're going to play in front of their fans, no big deal. Edmonton wants to make sure they just get out of there unscathed. They go into Colorado, they sit out a handful of their best players. I don't know what you think about this, Joaquin, but I was really surprised when I saw Stuart Skinner starting that game, knowing that they had a handful of players out. But, you can weigh in on that in a second. The Oilers have played the Los Angeles Kings, familiarity certainly with the way the Los Angeles Kings play. And I believe that the Edmonton Oilers know how to play against them with respect to a really good, strong defensive play by LA. But I just don't see the LA Kings being able to beat the Edmonton Oilers 4 times. Will it be a sweep? No. But I could see the series ending in 5. I really could. But if you put my feet to the fire, the easy answer would be 6. But Edmonton's so much better in all the areas, in my view. And the LA Kings, I guess they had a part of the season where they looked really serious, and I think their season will be coming to an end here in the next 10, 12 days.
So, Craig, when I'd ask you to put on your GM chapeau at this point, the end of last season, the Kings, Drew Doughty, a few of the Kings players saying all roads lead through Edmonton. You saw that the moves they made to bring in Dubois. Now you get what you wanted, a chance of redemption against the team that put you out for the Kings. But it just, Eric and I were talking before, I don't think that trade gets made at this point this year with the players that they lost. I thought they were better suited to go up against the Oilers with those young guys. As a GM at the beginning of the year, you must be looking at, okay, how do I beat the Edmonton Oilers? But it just seems like even now, the matchups, although on paper, looking at down the middle, they've got those 3 really good centers. I just don't think they match up as well as they thought they would be back in September.
I totally agree with you, Joaquin. And, Drew Doughty's right. All roads lead through Edmonton, and all exits in the playoffs lead through Edmonton, too, for the LA Kings. So that's the way I look at it. I don't think anybody could disagree with me. Pierre-Luc Dubois, he has been, when we talk about disappointing play, I'm watching the game last night, and I'm watching the game go on, and you would have thought that they were 40 points out of the playoffs, and he was just kind of going through the scenario of just finished. He has been awful there. He has been awful. And I think if Rob Blake had to do that trade over again, he would say, no, redo, please not. Because it hasn't benefited the LA Kings, it's benefited the Winnipeg Jets hugely. The Winnipeg Jets are a deep team. They're a team that can come at you with four lines. They're big, they're strong, they're fast. So when I look at the LA Kings, Drew Doughty knows what good teams look like. He knows what championship teams look like, and I think he's absolutely right. And it's nice, but I don't think there's any redemption for the LA Kings because I don't think they're good enough. I don't. Do they play? Can they be competitive? Yeah, they're going to be competitive. Yeah, they're going to commit to playing the way they play defense. But they don't have. I don't think they have any type of offense that can get the Edmonton Oilers uncomfortable. And if you want to beat the Edmonton Oilers, you got to find a way to get them uncomfortable. And I don't see how they can do it. And the fact is that the Oilers have played the Kings twice in the previous two playoffs. They know exactly what they're facing. They know exactly what the pregame meal is going to be in Game 3 in LA. They know what the flight patterns are. They know everything. And
they know where Will Ferrell sits, for crying out loud. Ferrell's seat. They know the number in the row and the whole.
Yeah, they do it. Like Connor should go over and sign his hat or something. Tell him, hey, listen, I'm sure you have some really famous signatures. Here's mine.
TSN's Craig Button with us on the show this morning, brought to you by Pro-Am Sports. Craig, I just wanted to two teams again, and we're going to look at this series through a big microscope here. But two teams going through coaching changes this season, obviously with the Oilers, and we talk about it pre-Knobloch, post the Knobloch hiring, or Woodcroft, or however you want to phrase it. But I think we know on this team there's a defensive structure and a system, and that was changed. But what can you tell us about the Kings in terms of pre-McClellan, post-McClellan there, and the Hiller takeover? I mean, is this a team that's morphed or changed or switched a few knobs or anything? Or is this basically just, again, the same team that we know, the 1-3-1, the defensive style, I mean, and just a different head at the top overseeing the bench?
Yeah, I think you've literally hit the nail on the head, Eric. And even when Jim Hiller took over, he said, I want to try to get the players' confidence back. I want to get them feeling good about the way we play and where we had success. So I don't think they were looking for material changes. I mean, the team had played so well. In the case of the Edmonton, they were on a downhill slide. I mean, the coaching change became necessary, and I'm not saying that it wasn't necessary because of the way the LA Kings were struggling. But as Jim said at the time when he took over, confidence, rebuilding the team's confidence in how we play and trying to get back to that. I think Jim believed in that. I think Jim thought that was their best path. So they righted themselves, and as recently as 2.5 weeks ago, there was no guarantee that the LA Kings were going to make the playoffs. So I think it served the purpose of trying to jolt the team, and sometimes that's what a coaching change does. And Chris changed the way the team approached its business. And I think what Jim came in and did was help the team approach their business with a little bit more assuredness. And different changes require different approaches and looking for different outcomes. And I still don't see the LA Kings as a team that is deep enough, strong enough, can challenge you. Can they win? Yeah. Here's what I would say the formula for them to win is that Cam Talbot plays absolutely at a level so brilliant, and the Edmonton Oilers level falls way off. That's the formula, I think, for the LA Kings beating the Edmonton Oilers. And when you have a team that's playing as well as the Oilers are, I just don't see areas where you need a strength in a certain area of your game, and I don't think the LA Kings have that to unsettle the Edmonton Oilers.
Craig, with the way that the Vegas Golden Knights kind of limping into the playoffs over the past few months, really, there's talk about a lot of these players coming back and them getting ready for the first round. But I look at the Western Conference on a whole. The big three-prong monster is the Vancouver Canucks. They play at a high speed and execute at a very high level. You mentioned the Winnipeg Jets. I kind of, with their depth, I think that Dallas their depth outweighs even the Jets at this point. And then you have to look at the Oilers. What matchup intrigues you most, maybe going into that second round, if things go to the course that we kind of assume they are? And who do you think's the favorite in the conference final?
Well, today on TSN, we do a thing called bracketology. They've renamed it buttonology. So I tried to make a pitch that I would only do the first round because you can have a lot more confidence about picking the first round. After the first round, what's happened, who's injured, like all the things that go with it, right? So, but they're forcing me to pick it all the way through. So I'll have some fun with it. But I'll share my pick with you in the Western Conference. I have a Dallas Edmonton Western Conference final. I think that Dallas. I think Winnipeg's a really good team. Could they be there? Yeah, they could be. I think it's close enough. But I am going to have Dallas and Edmonton in the Western Conference final. I think Edmonton is better than the Los Angeles Kings. And when I look at Vancouver's a good team, and there's no question about it. It's not easy to get to the Western Conference final, but I think the Edmonton Oilers are poised to do that. I agree with you about Dallas. Dallas is a really, really good team. The other thing I will add, and you just mentioned it, the Vegas Golden Knights started out this season 11-0-1. So I'm just gonna put this into context for you. In the time after that 11-0-1 start, after 12 games, in the next 70 games, they played 5 games over 500. Juxtapose that to the Calgary Flames, who are nowhere close to being a contender. After they started out 2-7-1, they played 4 games over 500. I have no chips in on the Vegas Golden Knights, none. And if they were playing with the Edmonton Oilers, I think they would get dusted. I think they're going to get dusted by the Dallas Stars as well.
Just like that long-form text that you sent us, Craig, which I really appreciate. You had the numbers. You said you're not answering the door when they knock. So I love that you're still sticking with that. Just transitioning now to the East, I guess, and some tantalizing matchups as well. We cannot forget action starts tomorrow with a pair of games, Hurricanes, Islanders. And then the big one, the nation's eyes will be glued to this, Bruins and Maple Leafs. But, of course, a Battle of Florida as well Sunday. But what's jumping off your page, and any surprises or thoughts on the East as it stands right now in the opening round?
Well, I'll try to go through the one part. The New York Rangers and the Carolina Hurricanes, I think they can already start making plans for their hotels in the second round of the playoffs. I think it's pretty much, how it's going to look. Like, where does the Rangers want to stay in Raleigh? Where do the Carolinas want to stay in New York City? I just don't see the Islanders or the Washington Capitals posing any type of significant challenge. So now we swing to the Atlantic Division. Tampa Bay and Florida is tantalizing, as you mentioned. It's a battle of Florida. There's rivalries. I really like Florida's healthy again. They're playing well. The Tampa Bay's playing. I can see this going 7 games. Bobrovsky's playing well. Vasilevsky's found his game. It's a great matchup, and you think about the Stanley Cup finalists last year, 3-time Stanley Cup final team, winning it twice in Tampa Bay. I think Florida's just a little bit too strong. I think they're a little bit deeper. I think they're got a little bit more throughout their lineup. Now we go to the juicy one, and the Toronto Maple Leafs. It feels a little bit different this year, but as I shared with you last week about the Vegas Golden Knights, and you might be surprised here when I tell you this. The Boston Bruins have had excellent goaltending this year. That's not the surprising part. Their defensive play, the metrics that comprise defensive play, it's worse than the Toronto Maple Leafs. So they have needed their goaltenders to save their bacon, literally save their bacon. So when I talk about defensive metrics, I'm talking about slot shots, inner slot shots, high danger chances, forecheck chances, cycle. And so the Toronto Maple Leafs are a middling defensive team in the National Hockey League. So think about the Boston Bruins not being as good as Toronto in that regard. And now the Toronto Maple Leafs have some offensive firepower. We know about Matthews and Nylander and Marner, but I think they got more scoring throughout their lineup. And it's one thing when you got to go through a layer of defense and then try to get to a really good goaltender. They don't have to go through a really good layer of defensive play. I think that's the area where Toronto can really take advantage. So when I look at it, I look at the setup. I think that Toronto's better set up with their offensive capabilities. And because of Boston's, what I would call, very pedestrian defensive play, they have to get to the goaltenders, and I think they have the offense that could do it this year. I'm picking Toronto to beat Boston.
Well, one more for you here, Greg. I've wondered about the Carolina Hurricanes, and there's always been talk, and better than anyone. That it's not the best player that wins the Stanley Cup; it's the best team. And I've always thought Sebastian Aho is a superstar in this league, a fantastic player. But does the addition of Gensel and Kuznetsov actually push the needle for the Carolina Hurricanes? What you mentioned, the collision course they are with the Rangers, is that enough to get them past that stacked Rangers lineup?
I think it is, Joaquin, and I 100% agree with you about Sebastian Aho. He is the understated superstar in the National Hockey League, playing in Carolina. He just goes about, and he's superb in every area of the game. I was on XM Radio yesterday, and we had Brett Pesce on, and Brett Pesce was talking about Gensel and Kuznetsov coming over, and he said they fit in seamlessly. They really, really have the way Rod Brindamore wants to coach and the way the team wants to play. They said they are full on board. And Brett says they give us things that make us that much stronger. And, last year they lost Svechnikov with the knee injury. So, that's a factor that comes back in. They had added, and they'd lost Pacioretty too. They tried to address some of the size and scoring, and then they lost Pacioretty, and then they lose Svechnikov. Brett Burns is a really good defender. I talked about Pesce, but Gensel has gone in there, and he's been great. And Kuznetsov has been through it. I think the fact that they both won and been through the grind, I think it'll really help them. It's a good team. And what I love about the Carolina Hurricanes is they force you to play at their tempo and pace. Yeah. And they're relentless, and they just keep pushing the pace and pushing the tempo. And I think that they're a really good team. And at even strength, you go look at their metrics, even strength in the league. They're tops. They're excellent. So the New York Rangers are not a great 5-on-5 team. And I think that's where the Carolina Hurricanes can really take advantage of it. I think the moves that Don Waddell made at the trade deadline are going to pay dividends for the Carolina Hurricanes here.
Well, Craig, Smith TM14 in our YouTube Nasty Chat says Dallas is stout, and I think I would agree on that, and probably a lot of other teams both in the West and the East following your analysis here. It should be a great opening round leading to a great Stanley Cup run and push, but thank you once again, Craig Button, TSN, for your time and flexing in this morning. MJ, I'm sure, owes you one. You can probably add it to his running tab, I'm sure, but enjoy the opening round. Enjoy the weekend, and we'll talk next week, Craig.
90 minutes, I'm going to play pickleball. No hype today.
You go get him. Love it. Craig Button, TSN. He's our hockey analyst. Brought to you, as always, by Pro-Am Sports. You can check them out, locally owned sports memorabilia and apparel specialists. They're getting you geared up for the playoffs. Rest assured, you can find them just north of the Yellowhead, St. Albert Trail, 128th Ave, or check them out online, proamsports.ca. Like you, they are sports nerds and AM nasties too. Tell them the boys at EST sent you.